What up guys, and welcome back to today's endgame video. And as you know, we're looking at when to push the pawn from the 6th to the 7th rank. And in the previous two videos we talked about the first two plans on when to push it, and today we're just going to go over the third one. Oh, and by the way, feel free to check the other two videos out if you didn't already. But okay, let's just start with today's video. So today's plan is going to be to push this pawn to the 7th rank in order to then sacrifice it and exchange the rooks and just come to a winning king and pawn endgame. It sounds complicated, but it really isn't. Let's just see how white can achieve this. This is of course only possible when there are other pawns here on the board, because otherwise you can't really sacrifice this pawn, then it's going to be a draw. You can just sacrifice this pawn if there are no other pawns on the board, or if you just don't win the rook for a pawn, because rook versus a rook, guys, this is typically a draw. If you're not playing against a 5-year-old kid, then this is going to be a draw, guys. Okay, I'm just kidding, but let's just continue with our video. White here played king to b6, trying to get closer. You know, if black allows him, he can play something like this, and then just, you know, promote the queen. So okay, black checked him, he doesn't want this, and white moved to get some shelter. Black checked him again, black went to this d6 square, and now black should check white's king again. And let's see what's the point. If white moves to this e6 square, because I mean, if he doesn't, then black is going to keep checking him. So let's say white moves to this e6 square, then black just moves back to this a1 square, because of course he has to protect it again, otherwise this is going to be winning for white. So he plays rook to a1, and how is white going to win? Here it comes our idea of sacrificing this pawn in order to then sacrifice the rooks and come to a winning pawn endgame. But right here it doesn't work, because if black plays correctly, like we saw, if he checks the white's king to this e file, then this is going to be a draw. But let's see the attempts that white has. White can try and play rook to d8. The point is that he's going to promote the queen on the next move if black doesn't do anything, so black has to take the pawn, and after he takes it, the point is of course rook to d7, which exchanges the rooks immediately. But the problem here, like we said, is that this is not a winning pawn endgame for white, but it's a draw. Now pause the video and think about what should black play to achieve a draw. Okay, so the drawing move for black here is to keep a distant opposition. Just like we talked about in one of our previous videos, distant opposition is usually 3 squares between the two kings, and the drawing move is just king to h7. Because now, whatever you're going to do, if you come here, black just gets this close opposition, and as we know, this is going to be a draw. White can't do anything to, you know, win the game, and he basically can't do anything else. If he goes there, black just goes there. He's just keeping this distant opposition. Now the losing move, of course, here would be king to f7, just getting this close opposition, because now after king to d6, you can see that you're gonna have to give up one of these two squares, and I mean, then white is going to get this close opposition, and you're just going to lose the game, because, you know, after king to g6, for example, king to f8, and so on, you're going to have to get out of here, and white is just going to win the game. But okay, keeping the distant opposition right here is drawing for black. So black should play it like this, get the king to this e file, and then go back to this a file, protecting this pawn from promoting the queen. But unfortunately he didn't do this. Here he didn't check the white's king one more time like he should. He just played rook to a1, and this is losing. Now white can again try his idea of sacrificing the pawn to get the winning pawn endgame by playing rook to c8. And what is the point here? After, for example, black checks the white's king, it's not a difference if he takes immediately. Okay, he just checked first. You just play rook to c6, and of course he can't take the rook. This is just winning for white. He has to take your pawn, and then let me hear it. What's the idea again? You exchange the rooks, and now where's the difference? The difference is that now when you capture on this c7 square, you have this distant opposition, 3 squares in between these two kings, and you know, anytime black comes closer to you, you just get this close opposition, and you're just winning. Because after a little bit of playing here, you know, you're just going to get those pawns, you're just stepping closer, you always have this close opposition, and after some moves, like we saw, you're just, you know, you're just going to just get those pawns and win the game. So the difference was here that in this line, uh, white exchanged the rooks on this c file, and in the line that we saw before, white actually exchanged the rooks on the d file. And on the c file he had these distant oppositions, 3 squares in between, and on d file he didn't have it. There were only 2 squares in between these two kings, and black would play king to h7 like we said, keeping this distant opposition. Remembering this idea to sacrifice this pawn in order to get into a winning pawn endgame after exchanging the rooks could be a really useful thing, because imagine, like, if you had this in your game, you could think like, you know, oh, I saw this on YouTube, I saw how to win this, I'm just going to sacrifice this pawn here and then get this opposition in the king and pawn endgame, and I'm just going to win. So this could save you a lot of games, and it's a really cool idea to keep in mind. So guys, if you enjoyed that video, please share it with your friends, give me some feedback, and I'll see you in the next video.